All right. Welcome, Peter Flynn.
Why, thank you for having me, Benji Wilson.
Welcome to episode one of what is tentatively and temporarily called Not Financial Advice.
Because this is not financial
This
advice.
is definitely not financial advice. We are recording episode one together. We've come up with this idea inspired on a couple of things, which we'll get to, but we are both action takers. And we want to really just start before we're ready. So here we are doing our first Zoom a few days after really shaking hands on this thing. And we're going to discuss exactly what we're doing. We're doing a investing challenge, investing in business challenge, and what inspires it and what we want out of it.
Super keen. And I think just having a bit of fun along the way and see what we can turn a small amount of money into a very large amount of money in the fastest possible time, or turn it into a very, very small amount of money. But either way, it's going to be entertaining, I think.
And learn valuable lessons.
Learn very valuable lessons about investing in penny stocks.
From our prison cells. Awesome. So basically what our challenge is, I'll start with where we're inspired from. So I came across a YouTube channel that's growing rapidly in popularity. It's called DumbMoney. And DumbMoney apparently is a play on words where Wall Street call the common man, the common investor, dumb money because it's easier to like siphon money out of them and they're very predictable. So they've called themselves, it's a team of three people, dumb money, ironically to stick the middle finger up to Wall Street and be like, we are actually now taking your money back because you're predictable. There's three people on there. One guy I really resonate with, his name is Chris. I don't know his last name, but I am reading his book at the moment because I'm diving head on in. But essentially, his book is about how he turned $20,000 into $2 million doing social trading, social arbitrage.
That's a hard bloody word to say. Arbitrage.
Arbitrage. Good. Social arbitrage. We'll just say social arb. We'll stick with that. Trading.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get a bit more of, we were inspired by, I found them on YouTube, and we've decided to take on the challenge of going from $30,000 to $1 million in any way possible. It's a challenge and it's very open-ended as it stands.
Any legal way possible. We've drawn
any
legal way possible.
White hat, gray hat when necessary.
It's going to be interesting because I think the rules here are a little bit different. It can be investing in private business as well as public business. And so there's going to be a few different ways and we can add to this challenge. And I think yourself, Benji, you were talking about maybe looking into Amazon and a few other ways of taking that 30,000 and turning it into $1 million as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a great place to start. Maybe give a little bit of our backgrounds. So I'll start with myself. Basically, my strengths are sort of digital marketing and e-commerce. And I really like, or historically, I've sort of identified trends similar to the dumb money identified trends, but instead of investing financially in businesses that are the best in the world at what they do, who are, making money from these trends, they're mostly social trends. So the Chris's guys talks about, he picks up trends on Twitter and trades them ahead of Wall Street because Wall Street's not on Twitter. So one of my big companies, probably 4 years ago now, was fidget spinners. And I actually created a fidget spinner Amazon store and made a lot of money, then got left with a lot of stock because it was a massive trend. And I thought it was going to be the next yo-yo and just be forever and just really stocked up on it. But essentially, since then, I've sort of jumped on trends or like cycles of things that I can predict that's coming using a lot of different softwares, which we can also get into, and really building those businesses. But now I was very excited when I found DumbMoney because it's almost like a new door opening where I don't have to spend my time and effort necessarily in these trends, but I can actually just deploy some capital there and have everybody else do the work for me. So yeah, I would say I've got decent experience, not obviously not world-class stuff, but I'd like to have that in e-commerce and digital marketing, social media sort of stuff. And I really am excited just to start getting better, because you're Peter already, Dr. Peter, should I refer to you as during this series? You're much better at the investing side than I am as well. I am, and I'm sorry, I'm basically just learning from you. So I don't know if there's going to be much you're learning from this side, but you've been investing for how long?
Been investing now for about 3 or 4 years now, I think. And I think similar to my background is that I'm a physiotherapist, so I'm going to be trying to give out as many like massages as possible to, to try and get to this $1 million the fastest. We'll see how we go with that. But a massive passion of mine has been investing and looking at businesses, and I'm absolutely a numbers geek. We're probably very similar on that regard, Benji. And looking at trends and seeing what's happening with businesses and where they're going and what the opportunities are. And especially through COVID, and it was a bit of a unicorn where you'd see a lot of business that they're just fallen off a cliff because the world was like, what's going on? And there's, in the short term stocks, their price is basically based off of fear and greed. And so when there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of opportunity. And when there's a lot of greed, it's maybe a good time to be selling it and moving on from those things. And so throughout the pandemic, and this is what Benji and I bonded over early on, was just looking and finding what those things were. And I think things like there were some great examples in some stocks that had just different ratios where they were commercial real estate stocks, and their commercial real estate was valued 5 or 6x what their actual stock price was. And so investing into those, they were very safe stocks to invest in and trying to increase that over time. One of our favorite was bloody Flight Centre. How good is Flight Centre where they dropped off a cliff, and I think it was about $7, and you could put a whole heap of money in, and it's back up to about $15, $16 now, just based on the fact that everyone was leaving those fearful of what was going to happen and moving forward with the stock market's always looking at the future. So that's what we're going to be trying to do here, is find what are those stocks that have a lot of potential moving forwards, looking for the trends socially that people might not have picked up yet, and hopefully turning that 30,000 into more than 30,000 and trying to beat our benchmark, which will be the S&P 500. But Benji, I'm interested to know, because you've done a lot on the social trends and Amazon. Are there any things you're looking at the moment that you're like, hey, this is a possible opportunity moving forwards?
Yeah, definitely. I hope you can hear me, because you glitched for most of that and then came back as you threw it back to me. So it was quite ideal.
Brilliant.
Before I jump into that too, I thought it was interesting, Dr. Peter, that I was reading this Chris's guy's book.
Yeah.
And he's actually basically his goal is $1 billion, and he's currently got about 30 million. And I was like, well, that's a kind of a cool similar ratio than exactly what we're doing at the moment, obviously on a smaller scale. So I'm just like, it sort of lines up, which I thought was really cool. There's a few things I'm looking. Oh, and last thing on that Chris guy, because I'm sort of like, I'm just like, I want to learn how to become really good at investing, Tony Robbins' way. How do you do that? You basically model people who do it the best. And so this Chris guy, and he works with a team. He's got a couple of people in DumbMoney, and they're awesome too. But this Chris guy says that before 2020, he was averaging 64% returns a year, which is absolutely unheard of. And in his book, he says that he was the #1 ranked account. It was called Co-Investor or Co-Investor or something like that, where people publicly rank accounts and people submit them to be ranked against each other. He was the #1 ranked account out of 250,000 other accounts. Or could have been 40,000 other accounts. And I'm just like, well, this guy seems legit. And apparently, as of this year, he's averaged 80% because he's 2020 COVID stocks were absolutely skyrocketed. So, the numbers seem to be there. I like the way he thinks. And that's sort of where I'm leaning at the moment. So in terms of where I'm looking to start, I've actually put together a really quick Excel doc. Also, if I keep looking this way, it's because I'm on my iPad, because my MacBook is currently being repaired, and if I don't have Wi-Fi in my new apartment yet, so this is starting way before we are prepared to start.
Way before.
But I put together quick. um, I want to start basically by getting very knowledgeable. And there's a couple of areas where I'm looking to do that. Number one is obviously the people who I've talked about 20 times already is DumbMoney. So I think over the next 4 weeks, what I really want to do is watch every single DumbMoney video, because they're longer form. We're sort of trying to model them somewhat now. That's going to be about an hour, and they sort of just go live and they talk. So I'm going to watch every single DumbMoney video and read Chris's book, and then sort of do a little social stalking and just see if I can find any other awesome stuff. And that should basically get me 300 times more educated than I am now. They have a really big Discord group, which is kind of cool, because they end up doing a lot of the research on behalf of these people, where they bring them what they call high conviction trades for these people to review. And they're saying they're saying that they haven't had an opportunity like this before, because their community is literally bringing in more high conviction trades than they have time to track and check if they're actually legitimate or not. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I definitely want to go deep into that group as well on Discord. And then really quickly, the other two, e-commerce is my background. So I definitely will deploy some of my 30,000 towards an e-commerce brand in some trend. And I would look to almost do a pre-sell sort of like Kickstarter regime, where it will be a lot quicker to get a return on money, and I can start a lot bigger, because I'm not going to put 30,000 in, but I can put 5,000 in and raise some money on Kickstarter. We'll have to talk about specifics on that. And then the last one is I want to get pretty deep into. I mentioned to you Bitcoin SV.
It's a very interesting one.
Which you are currently frozen, so I'm just guessing that you're nodding up and down. Yes. That's the face I've pictured. Bitcoin SV, basically this guy, I'll give you the really quick version, because excuse me, it might all be just a myth. This guy called Craig Wright, nobody thinks that he's Satoshi Nakamoto or whatever the founder of Bitcoin is, except all the evidence that I've come across, and I've watched a couple of very convincing videos, point to the fact that he is actually the original founder of Bitcoin. I really like his stances. He's big into the wealth of nations and very like historic economics. That seems, I'm very uneducated in it at the moment, but I'm going to dive deeper. And I really like his speeches, and he seems to make a lot of sense. He's very uncharismatic, so a lot of people don't like him. And he's very blunt and to the point. And he doesn't seem to want to persuade anybody of anything. So he's very easily like ridiculed. But I saw this one guy who was like, I feel like I'm 5 years ahead on everything cryptocurrency because I follow this one guy. And it's almost, to me, maybe identifying like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk back in the early 90s as they're starting PayPal or Amazon. So I'm going to be taking a little peek under the hood of there and see what I can come up with.
That's interesting. Do you have any of the examples on Bitcoin SV or Craig and why you think he is Satoshi?
So there is a video which I'll link if wherever we're posting this on YouTube, whatever, I'll put the link below. This one guy goes through exactly why he thinks he's Satoshi. A couple of off the top examples that I remember. One is someone who helped found Bitcoin and was on like a committee of like overseeing, and I'm not deep into the technical stuff, but the techno stuff I'm pretty deep in, just not the technical stuff. But he said that Craig said he would prove it to him. And this guy went to Craig's hotel room and came out saying that he is in fact the founder of Bitcoin. And basically nobody listened. Everyone thought that he'd been bribed or like hoodwinked or drugged or something. Craig's also predicting problems with things like the Ethereum network way ahead of what anyone else can foresee. He also, people said that you couldn't do smart contracts on Bitcoin. And there was this big conference thing where he was Skyped in and there's like a panel. Everyone's like, no, you can't. He's like, yes, you can. They're like, write a paper on it. And he wrote a paper on it like 2 years later, and everyone's like, okay, yes, you can. He just seems to be way ahead. There's an interview from him in like 2014 saying that he had a lot of Bitcoin and he didn't pay any money for it. There's also a lawsuit going on right now with another guy who apparently was the co-founder of Bitcoin who died, and his brother's suing him for his Bitcoin because Craig apparently put his brother's Bitcoin into Craig's wallet or something like that. And the whole premise is leading towards that they are indeed the founders. But I'll have a lot more information on that next week for you.
Unreal. I'll be very keen to see. And I think that leads into myself, what I've been looking at. I finally opened my first crypto account today because I thought if I'm going to have any chance of winning this one, Benji, I'm going to need to look at a few alternative investments and not just the stocks.
I heard that you had one fun adventure into the old crypto coin.
Yeah, we did, and I don't want to shout them out too much, but with my boy Robbie Skibicki from Survivor, and Ninja Warrior, actually.
And
Ninja Warrior. He did help me with my first foray into crypto, which was kind of good, kind of interesting. Lots of learnings, and I think from that, it's going to be building on that knowledge and starting to dive deep the same way we've looked into stocks and businesses and really understanding the business and not just the share price, to understand the coin and not just the price people are paying for it. So, and what better time to start than after a massive dip in crypto right now? So looking at, is that going to continue? Is it going to continue to go down? Are we looking at something that's about to go back up? What are the up and comers? And also maybe looking at some of the altcoins as well, because it's very hard for a Bitcoin to double, but for a very small coin, it's very easy to double, triple, quadruple. So I'm very, very interested, especially in the social trading here. I've started following a few people through TikTok now as well, and watching what they're doing, what they're predicting. And there's some interesting cats, you could say, out there. So I think that'll lead to trading. You go.
Where you be conducting
there we go. I'll get my ask that one again.
Sorry about that. Where will you be doing most of your? So just like basically, I'm asking for myself really, but I know some people also benefit from this. When you say I'm going to be looking more into crypto, where will you go? What will you type? Who are you looking? How do you know if someone's legit, sort of thing?
I mean, in crypto, it's very hard to know if anyone's legit, I think, to be honest.
I think
firstly and foremostly, I'm going to be leaning on my friends who are doing it currently. So people who I know and respect, who have made a lot of money in the field. I've got a few different friends who have been very successful. I have one friend who told me to invest in Bitcoin back when it was $8. He also probably invested Litecoin when it was 2 cents. And I declined both times. So I'll be leaning on him a little bit. I've got a few other friends who one of them actually makes his own TikToks. He makes MikToks, and he seems to be doing incredibly well through it. So starting to understand what they do, who they listen to, where they're looking. And I think those people that I like, trust and respect, and asking them, what are you reading? What are you listening to? And where are you getting your information from? I think it's going to be a big start for me, rather than just diving out and hooping.
Love that.
So what about yourself?
So I will be basically doing the same thing. I guess we both just model people who have proven track record. I will be scraping every single piece of information from YouTube, essentially. I'd like to just go deep into I'd like to know more, because I listened to a couple of Mark Cuban interviews. Have you heard any of those?
I haven't listened to him talk about crypto. I've listened to him before though. What are his on crypto?
So he was he was almost anti-crypto about 3 years ago, and he's recently come around. And when Mark Cuban does something, he does something like right. And so he's literally learning the coding language of I think smart contracts on Ethereum. And he's talking about, because there's like staking coins. He's talking about how most people who stake actually lose money, and it's above my pay grade for now. But when he was talking about this stuff, I'm like, he's literally put in like 1,000 hours into going deep into these topics. So I'd like to follow him. Gary Vee is always a good one. He's always be more surface level, but you know, you model the guy who's just he'll just point in the direction that we should go. But I would like to get down almost more into the nitty gritty. Whereas it's funny because almost the smart money, the dumb money, I call them smart money because they just make so much money. But they seem to be they call themselves non-fundamental or technical analysis traders, where they don't care what any of those mean. They just want one piece of information that other people don't have. Whereas I think on the crypto stuff, I almost just want the opposite, to actually know all the fundamental analysis and where it's going.
It'll be interesting looking at that and going, you have all the fundamental analysis, and then we've got some random dude on TikTok who's like, but this, and see where that takes you. Because I think from what it'd be interesting if I had like a pretend portfolio from these randoms I've been following on TikTok. I would have made an incredibly large amount of money over the past year, and I hadn't wanted to put anything in. I was like, it's gambling. I'm a huge fan of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and I don't think they'll ever come around to crypto. They're a big fan of the create a fool theory for that one, which is where you buy something and hope that you can then on-sell it to someone. It's worthless, but for more money than you bought it for. That's create a fool theory. So just looking at that and going, with all, like, I listen to a lot of technical analysis and I start to understand some of the terminology, but it doesn't make sense when I'm looking forwards. It all makes sense looking backwards. Whereas when I look at what's happening socially and what's happening as people are buying things, I wonder if there's more there than meets the eye, especially for a smaller volume trader. Because when I look at large traders, anything you're trading in huge volumes, you can't be doing that because there's not the breadth or the depth to be able to do that. Whereas when we're doing relatively, like when we're talking 30,000, to $1 million, we're still talking small in trading terms. There are little things we can take advantage of that a large investor couldn't do. And so I wonder if that's how we can increase those investment returns. So we're beating the 8 to 10% that the S&P 500 gets and hitting more of the 80% like Chris did.
Yeah, I'd love to hit that 80%. I would hit that 85%. Be like, what's up, Chris?
85%. One of you. We even get that 100%. But
So going, you started with the sort of avenues you're looking down, and you said crypto is number one.
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm looking down. Second one is probably just the stock standard, the stocks, and looking at for me, mainly the Australian and the American stocks, because I understand those a little bit more. Not maybe looking at the huge, really large cap stocks, but looking at the smaller cap stocks and going, all right, what's happening here? And then looking at some trends that are happening. And I remember DumbMoney, one of them that he talked about, we get some feedback now, technical difficulties. One of the ones they talked about, was it Tupperware they did? Was it Tupperware?
Container store?
Container store, that's it. And they saw it on Netflix, and it was the Netflix effect that the stock price just went way up. So looking for, are there any opportunities like that they're going to be coming up? Because I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for us, is looking at trends that are happening and getting in there before Wall Street do, or before the general investor does, because things can shoot through the roof in this day and age. So looking at the Netflix effect, looking at things that are happening on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube, I think there's so much opportunity there if you're looking in the right places. So I think that's going to be one thing I'm looking at, is smaller cap stocks that have a large opportunity to grow in size rather fast.
Love that.
And I don't know if you saw, but Nike had a 16% increase just the other day, just because their sales were massive through COVID. So,
is that right?
Yeah, absolutely blasted.
Wow, because
super weird.
What's interesting about Nike is they pulled their products from Amazon. And I was like, oh, Nike, you guys are messing with the wrong company. And then literally like 4 months later, Nike sales had not decreased, even though they pulled it from Amazon. I'm like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And they had a massive increase. I can't remember exactly how large it was, but they smashed the analyst targets. So
wow,
doing big things, Nike. So that'll be another one, small cap stocks.
Yep.
Then the third one I've been looking at, similar to you, is looking at creating an e-com brand or a trend there and jumping on something. So currently doing your Amazon course. So I think
Very
I'll be
nice.
sitting a little bit behind you on the knowledge there, but I'll be sponging off you as usual, trying to learn as
Prepared to
much as
leak
I can.
into your sponge.
In a very non-sexual way.
No, mostly.
Maybe, we don't know.
We'll see where this takes us.
We'll see where this takes us. They're the top 3 places I reckon I'll be looking at initially.
I love it. It's very similar.
Very
Small
similar.
cap stocks, socially, crypto, and e-com. It's the same. It's not very similar. It's the same.
Well, I don't think you can do. I'm picturing investing right now and going, well, we can't invest in the S&P 500. It's not going to get us there very fast. Large cap stocks are very unlikely to get you there very fast.
We don't have enough of private equity, so we're literally starting our own business and taking all the equity.
Essentially, so you've got to start a small business with that capital. You've got to invest in smaller cap stocks, or penny stocks, if you may, at times. And crypto is always one that is floating there, because crypto is, you look at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin itself, it's most likely not going to be a currency of the future or have anything. In my opinion, it's not going to be something that's super usable other than as a store of value. However, blockchain that it's built on is definitely going to be the future. Like blockchain is going to be in 10, 20 years time, I believe, and I think we were talking about this the other day, it's going to be like the internet, right? Everything's going to be built on it, and you won't be able to imagine life without it. So it's investing in blockchain rather than, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Let's invest in the technology it's built on, because I truly believe that that's going to grow incredibly over the next few years.
Yeah, I like that. The other one I'm interested in, and we won't go too deep into specifics, I guess the first episode, is something like Aave. Have you heard of Aave?
No.
It's AAVE. And there's other ones, but basically it's within the realm of decentralized finance. So basically lending and borrowing without the intermediary third party. And they have their own currencies, such as there's Yearn Finance and stuff. And essentially it's obviously the future. Like in 20 years from now, instead of going to a bank, you just go to the pool of lenders and you literally get the best possible rate, because it's all decentralized and everyone can bid exactly how much they want to bid. And it can all be embedded, like you said, in the smart contracts, and it doesn't need anyone like governing the laws or the rules. But I don't know too much about it. And I'm curious, because it's something like, it's as if in my head at the moment, like NAB and National Australian Bank, for those not in Australia, if they had their own currency and they loaned out and borrowed in their own currency, I'd be like, well, that sounds like a really good currency to hold, especially because they're just going to get bigger and bigger, almost just like a lending company. So I'm curious at what's going on in that side of the crypto world.
Oh, I haven't heard about that. I'm gonna have to geek out on that a little bit and learn some more about this lending side of it.
Bro, it's fascinating. It was one of those things that was very mentally challenging, and I only did like 3 or 4 hours of research into it. But even like how they mitigate risk and stuff like that, it's all very fascinating. I'm excited to learn.
Very excited to learn. One thing I'd love to learn about, though, that you brought up just before, was staking crypto. And I just started reading on this today, and it sounds too good to be true. You can stake between 8 and 18%, which is essentially better than a return you get from the S&P 500. But then you said that it might, if you stake, you might be worse off than if you weren't staking.
Yeah, that's what Mark Cuban said. Apparently there's fees or certain things. Maybe even it could just be the actual coin depreciating in value. I don't know, but I know that was a statement that came out of Mark Cuban's mouth. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because you hear all the YouTubers or FinTalkers be like, yeah, get 15% on your money from doing nothing. And Mark Cuban's like, most people are actually losing money doing that.
Oh, I've got to look into that, because I was like, if you could,
because you were also the person who brought up that it's not actually backed by anything. It's not insured. Yes,
that was something I looked into for it, was going, well, what actually happens when your money's staked? It's not like it's just sitting in a bank account. It's sitting in an account and being used as, like, they're essentially using your money, and what's your money backed against? What happens if someone defaults, and what happens to your money then? I think it's an interesting conversation to have. But if someone told me you could put your money in a bank account and get 15%, you probably wouldn't invest. You just chuck it in the bank account, leave it, and just keep putting money in and let it compound interest, essentially. So if you can do that with crypto, essentially put your money into crypto, stake that, and that's a positive thing that actually generates cash flow, well, then I'm going to be absolutely all about that. We'll be putting the
Good luck getting $1 million with your 8%, bro.
Yeah, Jesus, it's ridiculous. So obviously we're gonna find some penny stocks to quadruple in. Some penny stocks. It's gonna come back to that.
What this is gonna be is us investing in a couple of like small cap stocks, and then just starting a business on the side because we both know how to start businesses. I've got 16 employees.
Bad at investing in small cap stocks.
I'll tell you, that all sinks.
One that I did invest in, it was the only small, like little penny stock I ever did, was 88E, which is it's an oil exploration company up in bloody, I think it's Alaska or something like that. And wow. So each year during the summer, they can go and they can start to explore and they can look for oil. But then when winter hits, it gets too cold and you can't do anything essentially. And so each year you usually have this massive spike around summer when they're looking for oil. And then unsurprisingly, every year they don't find oil and the share price plummets again. And it had this, if you were to go look at their stock price over time, it's been ridiculous how this has consistently happened every year bar when COVID hit, which was the year I invested in and lost, I think, $13,000, which is fantastic. However, if I've done the same thing this year, it went from 1 cent up to about 9.1 cents over the period of like a month. So, 9x. And then they found nothing and it just dropped back down. So later this year, when we get around sort of September, October, I'm going to be looking at their stock again going, all right, have they bottomed out now? Is it worth investing? Looking at typically every February, March, you get all this hype. Everyone's like, oh, let's get in. And it pumps up and then it just drops off. So there's definitely
that seems like some great asymmetrical risk reward if you're going to bump how much did you lose? I guess what percentage?
Percentage was 60%.
Well, there we go. You got a little bit of profit in there if you do it 9 times in a row.
yes, you'd hope so. But have a suss of that one. I think, and it'd be interesting looking for those examples and going, all right, where are we going to do this? What are we going to put in here? And also seeing like whoever is watching this, what are the things that they are investing in and what are the opportunities that they see coming up? So very keen.
A big win I wanted to share with the team prior to week 1, week 0, I call it. But I've been watching a lot of DumbMoney recently. I know we've been sending each other just photos of watching it. They're both all three of them seem to be very frugal and like conscious of like how much expenditure they're having. And so I thought, maybe I should start like embodying that a little bit more. I'm very fast and loose and happy to be fast and loose. But I think not fast and loose where it doesn't bring me joy, happiness, or growth or more money back. If it does bring me any of that stuff, I'll be fast and loose with the old Apple Pay Pass, whatever it's called. But so what I did, because I remember doing this about 2 years ago now, I bought my old company off my business partner, and essentially I looked at all the monthly expenses that I had, and this included employees, and we had $16,000 a month in expenses, over $200,000 a year. And so I cut them all, and I'm like, oh, that's a great way to earn ROI, is just to see what I'm currently spending. Obviously, it won't go towards the total or anything. But I actually, over the last 2 days, because I don't have my laptop and stuff, so I haven't done work. So I just decided to like go through all my bank statements and subscriptions and money that's been owed that wouldn't come back unless I chased it up. And it's nowhere near what it was 2 years ago because I learned that lesson. But I got rid of about $850 US a month of expenses that I wasn't using, which is about $10,000 over the next 12 months. And then about $5,000, including a bond that was, for some reason, not coming back to me, coming back to me now as well. So I've got $15,000 over the next 12 months that I wouldn't have if this challenge didn't start, which I'm looking at as like, well, it's a 50%, potentially a 50% return.
Wow. Getting a little head start here.
I definitely won't put it on on the total or anything, but I was just like, well, it's a great, inspired by DumbMoney being like, well, if I ended 12 months with 45,000, I'd be a little bit disappointed. But if you just say that you had a $50,000 return on 50% return on investment, it's pretty phenomenal. So I'm like, well, it is one way to do it. It's just to stop the bucket from leaking before filling it up with more money.
Interesting way to look at it. And I think from my perspective as well, might be worth going through that. And everyone who does watch this, going through, looking at their own leaky bucket and thinking, what's the opportunities here? I'd love for people to be doing this with us as well, jumping on this, this investing train. And if you're thinking, I don't have enough money, well, then maybe it's time to look at where you're spending money that it doesn't need to be spent, and looking at how can you potentially be investing this for the long term to really create massive wealth and financial certainty for yourself, for your family, for your friends. I think that's a big reason behind us being interested in investing and really wanting to do this is, money is not a good, it's not a good thing, nor is it a bad thing. It's literally just a thing. And if you're a bad person, you're going to do more bad shit if you have more money. If you're a great person, you're going to do more great things when you have money. So for us, we're looking to essentially create that financial certainty, give ourselves the opportunity to just do more good. And with Benji living up in the Gold Coast now, flights are a little bit more expensive than going to Melbourne. So I'm just going to make sure that I can cover that each week.
Might just have to move up with at least 80% of the time up here.
85% of the time. Q-pole, hey?
Just a couple of inside jokes for those who are watching. But we don't expect anyone really to watch this episode as it comes out. This is almost like an episode that I would like to go back to in a year. And I guess an episode that other people will probably come back to once they see Pete turn his 30K into 30 mil. from some sideways crypto coin and be like, apparently you documented this process. But I think Gary Vee says it the best. He's like, obviously says document, don't create. It's very easy to create content that way, but it also personalizes us and personalizes the experience. And he uses this example. He used it once and it stuck with me. He's like, can you imagine if Drake, the massive rapper, had vlogged every day on his rise? I would love to watch that. Or if Tony Robbins, who's kept the journal every single day, made the journal public or vlogged or podcasted on his rise, I'd be like, well, I know what I'd get stuck into. It'd be exactly that. So this is almost 100, 1,000 episodes from now. It's like, this is day one. So what's up to 43-year-old Dr. Flynn?
Day one. And just as long as this is also not financial advice, also not a doctor, but just for everyone who's watching this.
What? That's not what you told me.
That's not what the Hilton said, was it?
That's not what he told me.
I think documenting this is going to be fantastic to look back and go, this is where it started and this was the process and it worked really well. Or this is where we started and it did not go very well. So we learn for next time how to do it better. And I think that's a big thing we've learned from people like Tony as well, is going, it's not a failure, it's a learning. And this is going to just be a whole big process of learning. And a big reason that we started this together was going, well, we want to do a business together. We want to be catching up together and essentially just spending time chewing the fat and talking about things that are interesting, which is investing. And how can we learn and essentially get paid to learn from our own investments? And not financial advice is what we came up with. And hopefully this inspires a few other people who are watching to go, shit, yeah, I want to be doing that too. I want to be getting around that. I want to be learning on this stuff. And I want to be spending time creating that financial certainty and wealth and just having a good bloody time.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm excited.
Just enjoy hanging out and sharpen each other's swords. Because I always learn a lot from you. I was thinking on that, we could call it not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor with Dr. Peter Flynn.
And Professor Benji Wilson. There you
go. We wear stethoscopes.
I actually do have a stethoscope back from
my
hospital placement. So
most doctors do.
Look, I just wear it to most dates, you see.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still wearing this thing, am I?
For this thing? No.
This thing.
Oh.
That's good. All right. So I think that's a good intro. Basically, it's a challenge, 30K to a mil. I think one thing that you touched on is this is obviously not financial advice. That is what we are going to be calling this thing. But we're also going to be, like you said, most of our money is going to be in more safer investments. But I do think that this sort of $30,000 is going to be in riskier investments because we're going to try and 10x this thing. We're not trying to go for a 8 to 15% return on our investment. So if you're playing along at home, make sure that you're in that same sort of bucket. And this is not your life savings, but this is some fun money where we can learn a bunch of skills and enjoy the process.
Yeah, just to reiterate, this is not where I would put my life savings either. Most of what I have, and I'm sure Benji has, is sitting in things like the S&P 500 and index funds. This is money that we're not happy to lose, but if we lost it, it wouldn't change our lives, and it wouldn't be a massive negative. So this is about learning, about hopefully 10xing it, or what's it, like 33xing it to hit $1 million, and having a bit of fun, because it's going to be a race and I'm competitive as shit. And hopefully I win, fingers crossed. And ideally it's a close one. So you're also nearly at $1 million, but we want to make sure that Dr. Flynn gets his nose in front at the end.
Just across the line. Refresh.
Yes. Peek up.
He's there.
Yeah.
I think I heard somewhere it's like learning with $30,000, if it all goes to zero, it's essentially the best education you can get for $30,000. Like, where else are we going to be putting that? You go to university, you go to, where else do you put? I don't know. But you can't get that feedback unless we throw it all in one stupid crypto coin and it disappears. We don't learn very much. But by actually researching these trades and seeing where we're going wrong and adjusting, I think it's going to be a bargain for the skills and the bromanship that we pick up on the journey.
Yeah, and the accountability the whole way. Money is a great accountability. If you're putting money in something and truly invested, you're going to be learning so much. And what we want to be doing is just making sure that we are making what we feel are the best trades based on sound knowledge, as well as what's happening through different trends. And ideally creating a system that we're able to follow to hit success and to achieve what we want to be achieving. Because at the end of the day, a big thing for us is being able to be successful and be able to learn and be able to be masters of our craft. And this is something we're both very much novices at, learners at the moment. And so it's how can we become like DumbMoney, who have had incredible success, have a great followership, and obviously what they do in the community they've created. There's so many people who are elevating themselves and achieving their goals and success too. So we'd love to emulate that slightly. And I've lost Benji. He's back.
Sorry, bro. I just connected to my girlfriend's AirPods.
Well, I hope Jenna enjoyed that.
I think Jenna just opened her AirPod case or something and then just connected. So I just put that Bluetooth off. Sorry for the interruption.
Technical difficulties.
Technical. We will also improve our technical. Now, a couple more things I'd like to touch on. The first one, we do hope that other people join us in this journey, including some mutual and non-mutual friends who I have a couple people who I know are very interested, and they will, of course, be welcome to join some of these calls. We're doing weekly at the moment, which I'm very happy with. They might join every 2 weeks or every month, so like check in, and they may actually be part of the race. We'll almost put together a leaderboard Excel sheet or some form of document where we can sort of track how everyone's going. But I would love for people to join us. And I think we'll probably have one or two who will definitely be on the same timeline as us.
Yeah, very keen to see a few people jump in. I'm interested to see people who are involved in property and other ways of investing as well to jump on board and challenge us a little bit. And we've definitely got someone in mind who may or may not be a famous person from Survivor.
Who's a rapper?
From Survivor.
It's Chris Hemsworth.
I have heard him rap before.
Have you? Let's see if we can get a Survivor rapper Ninja Man.
I think we will be able to.
Tinder top pick of Adelaide on.
The absolute Tinder top pick of Adelaide. So we'll be having a few more people as well as.
I think some people call that guy the brunette Pete. Is that right?
Blobby.
Blobby.
Oh, my man. All right. But I think that's pretty much it for the first one, isn't it? We've
so do you have a
rules of engagement? Anything?
Sorry,
we just froze there. We're just like
a little silent standoff. You go. No, you go. I was gonna say I'd like to get a little more specific on essentially the rules and almost less rules, but more like storyline. You know, people want to hear the narrative of 30K to $1 million. I know DumbMoney, they do startup angel investing and stocks as their thing, or someone like Graham Stephan does real estate and investing, as people do crypto and invest. So it'd be cool to like almost concrete down a streamlined narrative of what we do. But I think that'll come. And then I'd also like to start with almost like an intention for next week, where mine, as discussed earlier, will be basically watch a quarter of everything DumbMoney's ever put out. Become one of them is my goal.
Very nice. I think I'll continue to watch DumbMoney. I think, like you said, we've been screenshotting and sending DumbMoney across. I've also downloaded a few more books that I've been listening to by Robert Kiyosaki. Is it Kiyosaki? The Rich Dad Poor Dad. Kiyosaki? Robert K. Anyway, Robbie K.
Robbie K.
Robbie K, mate. And I'll be listening to Financial IQ. I think it's called Increase Your Financial IQ, to understand, just a different side of it, as well as just finishing off and listening to another book that was written about Warren Buffett. So starting to understand some more of his value investing as well. So I'm going to be bringing a little bit of that knowledge to these calls.
Love it. I'm looking forward to that.
Good man. Well, do we have we haven't got a date. We can start trading from today, I believe.
From today,
June.
So are you tracking on an Excel sheet as well?
I think we'll create a Google sheet together and we'll share that live as a
doc. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll finalize mine. You may want to do your own template or whatever. We can just do little tabs down the bottom. Or we can steal each other's template if we see that they're superior. But my laptop should be back on Wednesday, so we'll have it by the next Sunday.
Start.
Good luck. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a bunch of money in a random crypto and just come on.
The stock market's not open on a Sunday, so it's got to be crypto today. I'm sorry. Sorry, Warren.
What I want to do is I want to get my nose ahead at the start. Just dude, I'm up $50.
Yeah.
What are you up?
BRD while I put it in some small altcoin.
Oh man.
But maybe with the leaderboard as well, if we just have sort of weekly updates as to where we're sitting. So if we're 30,000 cash position to start with, and we've made some investments, just starting the call with this is our current cash position or something like that.
Yeah, I like it. I think we'll naturally fall into like a cool format like that. The other thing,
Lost you again.
Is that the gameplay?
No, we got technical.
No, lost me.
Difficulties.
We're back. There we go. Full transparency between bros. Is that the gameplay?
Full transparency between bros is always the game plan. Honesty.
I like it. Honestly, honesty, but more like, I've made a crypto investment. It's just like, I personally would prefer to hear like, I've made this crypto investment based on this, and this research. And then a month later, being like, this is what came out. Where in another world, it's like, he doesn't know about this one over here.
Or even like, this is a great investment and it's a terrible investment. And you're pushing people down that way. But
yeah, look at that. Second level.
Second level.
It's your coin. You just siphon 30 G's from mine into yours. Why is it called Dr. Peter Flynn coin?
Yeah, very. Just keep it on the hush on the D-Lo. So
Yeah, I like that.
I like that, and I think we'll figure out what are the sort of not so much rules, but what are the guidelines that are bendable as we go throughout this journey together.
Yes,
I'm very excited to, really excited to see you succeed too, man, because I think we'll be learning a lot from the people we're following, from each other, and more importantly, just keen to bro out and just have a debate on like why we've gone with this one or that one, or why we've gone for the same one, but maybe for different reasons. And for people watching, hopefully it's entertaining as all shit.
Yeah, I think it will be, especially once we get some money moving around.
Yeah.
I'm keen on this e-commerce stuff too. That's going to be a slower mover. That's almost like a 12-month really before you see something, unless you do something like a Kickstarter where you can, I guess maybe I'll run this by now. You have an idea, and you know how Kickstarter, you have an idea, you put it on Kickstarter, and people, if they like it, will fund it. In the rules.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily an investment out of the gate, but it's definitely a business. But it takes none of the $30,000 capital really.
That's an interesting one. I like the idea of that, because I think I want to see us reaching outside the box, and I want people watching to see that you don't just have to have $30,000 to start. You can start with nothing, and this one could turn into something huge. And maybe that one ends up being the best investment of all.
Right.
Like out of everything that we do, maybe we lose the 30,000, but then the e-com you started with the Kickstarter ends up being a $1 business or something. And for each person watching, they're like, well, shit, yeah, like why can't I do that? Because everyone thinks you need money to make money, but I don't think that's so.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, I'll just think about that too. I could throw what I would like to do, because Kickstarter is obviously all about momentum, like a lot of these platforms are. But I'd like to maybe throw some ad money at it. So it's almost like I could put like just $1,000 of ad money, and then so that the initial investment has $1,000. It'll also give momentum, and then it'll also give me an ROI on the 1,000, because otherwise it's just an infinite amount of returns. Good luck beating that.
Is it profit or revenue that we're
Oh, it's profit infinity. So good.
I'll just write on a piece of paper how much money I made.
Yeah, testimonials.
So all financial transactions will have to be verified by the both of us and not written on a piece of paper.
Fuck. Seems fair. I guess last thing I'd like to know, what do you, because $30,000 is obviously it can be seen as a small amount of money. It can also be seen as a lot of money, but in the scheme of $1 million, it's quite a small amount of money. What timeline are you predicting?
Timeline. I would love if this 30,000 within 5 years' time is $1 million, personally, because I look at the rate.
Like winning the race.
Like, I'm being conservative here, right, Benji? All right, don't embarrass me in front of my friends. I think 5 years would be if anyone could turn 30,000 into $1 million in 5 years, I think they'd be incredibly stoked. In this example, yeah, we do want to make it happen a lot faster, but I would be conservative and say 5 years would be the time that I'd aim for, and I'd aim to make it faster than that. But that's the baseline I'm giving myself to work from.
I like it.
Is yours in days or weeks?
Hours.
Hours.
By week 2. Check in on week 2, everybody, for a how-to.
$30,000 of lottery tickets.
Go on. Scratchy.
Surely the maths. If you buy $30,000 of lottery tickets, one of them good, right?
Well, odds are in your favor, I believe. I was thinking, because it's like, normally I've done a couple of like YouTube challenges before, and it's like a 45-day sort of challenge. And so when I was thinking about 30 G's to 33 exit, it's a very large number with no big investing mistakes. So I'm like, it's not going to be as quick as I was playing it out to be in my head. unless something absolutely magical happens. But I sort of did land on that about a 3-year sort of time frame. Because anything longer than that, that's just way too much content. It's year 2.5, and we've gone from $30,000 to $74,000, which is like by any standards a good return on your money. Really but good. It's like we should have just got a day job, or we should have just started at 300,000 and actually had it been a meaningful amount of money.
Yes, no. So I'm happy to put 3 years as if we haven't reached it by 3 years, we've got to make something happen fast and just
we've got to go to the casino and put it all on red.
Surely.
Sign the pact. Episode 1.
Episode 1.
We sign the pact. If it's not done in 3 years, we put it all on red.
Red or black?
Red. Always red.
It's all grey to me.
He's colorblind for those who are unaware.
There'll be a few colorblind.
We're both colorblind, and we have bursitis.
We hope that's okay.
If that's okay. We hope you still accept us.
We hope you still accept us for people as who we are. Well, I think that about wraps it up for episode 1. I'm going to be interested to watch this back in 3 years' time when we're sitting on a hefty 2 mil sum after putting it on red at 1 mil.
Yeah. 900. Yeah, me too. Enjoyed episode 1. Frozen Nixie stamps there. I don't know if I'm still on.
You couldn't have frozen at a worse time. You're back. Technical difficulties. By episode 2, we will have Wi-Fi and a camera for Benji, so we're going to be all sweet.
Bro, you couldn't have frozen at a time.
Could not have frozen a better time, I know.
That'll be one of the first investments I make.
Does that come out of the 30,000?
This is the messiest finish ever. Stumbling across the line here.
Trust me,
we're wrapping up.
This is not the messiest finish ever.
Well, I'm just it'll be seen from your perspective, so I'm sorry everyone, because this must look like my fault as you hold the recording.
Yeah, this has been messy. I'll go grab a towel, we'll clean it up, and we'll see you in episode.
As my low battery sign comes up. All right, brother.
Sounds
good chat. Good episode 1. I'll see you in 3 years.
See you in 3 years, my man.